Here we go.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Miller, and the SCP we're going to be looking at today is SCP-4266. Object Class, Keter. Special Containment Procedures.
Shit, this one more dangerous.
The Earth is to remain abandoned by the general public. A network of monitoring satellites is to be maintained, each equipped with standard orbital capture devices. These satellites will detect and warn off any ships attempting to land on Earth and will non-lethally incapacitate any that continue in their attempt. Any crew aboard these ships are to be extracted, taken to the nearest spaceport, and have amnestics administered. A small number of Foundation personnel are to be permitted to stay on Earth in order to continue research into SCP-4266. Each of these personnel are to remain physically isolated from each other and must be continuously monitored. Description: SCP-4266 is an as-yet unknown anomalous vector present exclusively on the planet Earth that causes lowered levels of empathy between sapient life. This vector is believed to be a compulsion effect responsible for virtually all historical violent interaction between humans.
Oh, wow.
The effects of SCP-4266 were first discovered in 2080, 5 years after the first successful Martian colony was established. It was noted that the level of violent crime was far below the expected average, despite socioeconomic disparities and complex interpersonal relationships that were previously thought to be factors in such acts. Psychological testing revealed that colonists had massively increased levels of empathy as compared to baselines performed on Earth. This was initially thought to be an anomalous effect of Mars 1, but after similar effects were noted on subsequent colonies established on the Moon, Io, Ganymede, and the various spaceports of the asteroid belt, it was concluded that the effect was instead localized exclusively to Earth. Attempts to isolate this effect to a specific object or region have thus far been unsuccessful. No obvious pattern of violent behavior exists apart from self-apparent ones, such as increased levels of violence as the population density of a particular region increases. Addendum 4266-A. Immediate Foundation Reaction. The Foundation determined that making this knowledge public would have a detrimental effect on humanity as a whole. In particular, it was projected that the revelation that all human violence was externally compelled would lead to a breakdown in faith in existing justice systems, in turn leading to potential destabilization of world governments. Furthermore, a number of dictatorial regimes that depended on the existence of violence to continue functioning would have forcibly denied the truth of SCP-4266, and the following conflict would likely have resulted in the eruption of many violent skirmishes. Finally, accepting SCP-4266's existence would result in a frantic attempt by humanity as a whole to escape its effect by going into space. The existing colonies would not have been able to support such a mass exodus, and their resources would quickly deplete. Accordingly, until a long-term strategy had been put into effect, the Foundation decided to obscure SCP-4266's effect by simulating the effects of violent crime in the non-terrestrial colonies. Foundation agents simulated non-fatal harm by engaging in consensual physical altercations in public and by faking the results of such altercations in private. Fatal harm was simulated using corpses that had died of natural causes that were then staged to appear to be victims of violence. Foundation agents also infiltrated the upper leadership of colonist peacekeeping forces in order to artificially inflate reported violent crime statistics. As a final measure, the Foundation created the popular New World, New Respect propaganda campaign in an attempt to explain away the observable increase in empathy in more altruistic terms. As a result of this campaign, simulated violence has been gradually phased out, with the public explanation that humanity has simply evolved past violence gradually. Addendum 4266
just actually inherently good.
Evacuation of Earth. In 2106, the Foundation determined that the most reasonable long-term strategy for humanity would be to eventually abandon Earth entirely, thereby removing the population from the deleterious effects of SCP-4266. The first phase of this strategy was to build up the colonial infrastructure so it could support this population. This phase was initially estimated to take centuries, but proceeded at a much more rapid pace than projected, due to the increased empathy levels resulting in heightened levels of cooperation. After noting this, the Foundation decided to share information about SCP-4266 with selected members of the colonial governments. Once they understood the nature of SCP-4266, colonial leadership agreed with the strategy and worked with the Foundation to complete the work within a matter of decades. The second phase involved convincing Earth's population to migrate to the colonies. As previously noted, simply informing them of SCP-4266's existence was likely to lead to mass hysteria and violence, so a cover story was disseminated instead. Designated Operation Farron, it posited that an unknown genetic disease endemic to Earth was starting to cause mass infertility, and the only way to avoid it was to leave Earth permanently. This story was aided by the targeted release of a Foundation-developed chemical compound called 31, which caused a temporary and reversible inhibition of human fertility. The subsequent plummet in pregnancy rates lent credence to Operation Farron and resulted in the voluntary migration of 90% of Earth's population. The Foundation was formulating a plan to convince the remaining 10% when a rogue terrestrial Foundation cell released 22, an earlier rejected form of the compound that resulted in complete and irreversible human sterility across the globe. These actions have been officially condemned by Foundation Command. Those responsible were extracted from Earth and remanded into custody, and the manufacture in all forms has been discontinued. However, the practical result of these actions was complete acceptance of Operation Farron's cover story. Follow-up efforts to migrate the remaining population was met with much less resistance, and eventually only a few 100,000 humans remained. By 2271, the last of these died of natural causes, and Earth was officially declared abandoned. The third and final phase, ongoing to this date, deals with Earth post-abandonment. It was judged vital to understand the cause of SCP-4266's effects in order to ensure that it would not repeat elsewhere. So a small team of Foundation personnel continues to operate on Earth, as noted in the special containment procedures. Furthermore, the Earth was designated a quarantine zone for all discovered anomalies that could pose any physical danger to humanity. Any such anomaly is to be moved to Earth the moment violent behavior manifests. Addendum 4266,
like
C.
prison.
Ethics Committee Report on SCP-4266. If you're reading this, it means you're finally old enough to understand why you're here. It also means you get to know the differences between the version of SCP-4266 the colonies are aware of, which you've just read, and the real one. Let's start with the most basic thing. SCP-4266 is not spread by an unknown vector. It is an airborne pathogen endemic to Earth's atmosphere that alters brain chemistry. The colonies produce their own oxygen via hydroelectrolysis and are therefore immune to this effect. The pathogen, having never had to exist in an environment where it was not plentiful, has no real defenses or replication ability and dies quickly when isolated. We figured this out within the first decade of study and not only suppressed this information, but actively disseminated counterintelligence, discouraging Foundation scientists from pursuing further research into this particular area. This ensured SCP-4266 remained an unsolved problem. The purpose of this was straightforward. I was aware that abandoning Earth would be proposed, and it was a proposal I generally agreed with, and one that I helped bring to fruition. But I was also aware of something the colonies would not and could not acknowledge. The Foundation functions due to violence. In particular, destructive testing of anomalies on D-Class personnel is vital to the everyday work we do here, and that testing was flatly refused by the colonies. Their non-violent nature, while admirable, means that they are unable to consider pragmatic options that will save lives long-term. Case in point, Foundation leadership would have spun their wheels for years, trying to cajole the holdouts on Earth to join them. Years where it would become more and more likely that the ruse would be uncovered. So we released riboxy-D-progesterone 22, a compound formulated from the study of SCP-4266, ironically enough, and solved their problem. And while RDP-22 does affect fertility, it has no effect on cloning, as you and your brothers and sisters will be able to attest. Our ongoing mission is threefold. First, to perform the testing that the colonies cannot perform, as a method of uncovering new truths about our universe and new ways to help our species. We are in contact with the Colonial Foundation leadership. They believe us to be a friendly intergalactic alien intelligence who periodically contacts them with helpful data. A belief we encourage with the help of the objects they send to Earth for quarantining. We are generally more unfettered in this task than we have been historically, as the regulatory arm of the Ethics Committee migrated to the colonies with the rest of the Foundation proper, leaving us behind. Second, to shape the ongoing fate of the colonies via strategic violent acts. We only interfere in this way when all non-violent solutions will eventually lead to catastrophic loss of human life. The covert assassination of EO's Vice-Chancellor, a populist who wanted to resettle Earth, is a recent example of this. Third, to defend against possible non-human incursions. Humanity is naturally blessed with a surplus of empathy. This trait may not be shared by other sapient species. The colonies will be unable to take the kind of first strike measures that we can. The loss of our own empathy is a small price to pay. It boils down, as it always does, to three simple words. You've heard these words your entire life. Their familiarity may even make them cliché to you. I would ask that you seriously consider them now. Consider what they mean for yourself, for our mission, and for humanity as a whole. Secure, contain, protect. 053.
That'll do it for
this. Concludes today's lecture. Thank you for listening, if indeed you still are, and you are all dismissed.
So basically, like, we're kind of like the man on the wall or the fly on the wall or whatever, where, you know, we are researching and taking out actual threats to humanity, and humanity is none the wiser. They're over here singing Kumbaya and shit, while we're over here doing the research, cloning people, using them as test subjects, you know, killing things. They send stuff that they might find that they think needs to be quarantined. We have stuff that needs to be quarantined. Then we just turn the Earth into a big prison, or a big SCP site, basically. So now it's just like, well, we do the dirty work that no one needs to know about type shit. That would be crazy. Like, it's, oh, we found this is SCP, or some type of entity or something that's causing humans to have low empathy. That's the cause of all the wars, all the violence that has been throughout history. You know, if that were true, I would be like, that explains a lot. If you read anything about history, particularly in the past, like I would say in the past, probably, I kind of want to include the Industrial Revolution, but because there was people doing horrible shit then. But as I would say, prior to that, where people would, who like, we need to conquer things. We need to take other people's shit, because we got stuff here, but we can have more stuff if we take somebody else's shit. And then we will go and wipe out. Like, if you didn't Now people just pretty much do extortion. Like, hey, give us a yearly, like, they pay us yearly or whatever. I forget what they call it, like tribute, I guess you say. Like, they pay us like a yearly tribute, and anytime we need men, you send us however many we need if you got those numbers, so we can go take other people's shit, and we won't kill you. But then the second that you decide that, you don't want to play ball, or when we come, we send messengers and like, hey, tell them to accept their defeat, and when we accept their defeat, give us some money, and whenever we need people, they can still do what they want, but just know that you are pretty much underneath our subjugation. And if you like, nah, they will go over there and wipe out your entire civilization. They'll kill all the men that are above a certain age. Usually they were like 12 or something like that. Like 12 and older, they like kill them. Because they like, I guess could be fighting age or something. Take all the women slaves. Take all the children slaves. Or some people, they just wipe out the entire civilization, entire village, or the entire city, or what have you, country. Like people, well, I guess back then there was more so kingdoms. So, you'd be just long stretches of land where no one's on, and then you come up on a big ass, castle or some shit like that, or a big settlement or whatever. And it's just, people did that for years and years all over the world. They just take people's shit, kill people, just wipe out sometimes whole civilizations. I mean, you imagine, because I've thought about that. Even when I was a kid, learning about, history. And you can imagine how much further along we would be as a species, or just on Earth in general. Now, I'll finish my thought. Just how much further along we would be if we had empathy, if we weren't trying to take other people's shit or destroy people. It became like, hey, let's help each other, instead of me taking your shit and killing you off, or killing you to it's almost none of you left, and then taking your shit. And I remember, I think I said this to a teacher before. I can't remember, I was in 6th grade, 7th grade, or something like that. And maybe it was 8th grade, somewhere in middle school or junior high. I remember saying this to a teacher like that, like how much further we'd be along if we just cooperated with one another, if we pulled our resources together to make everyone's lives better, instead of taking shit and then just killing. And these people over here can have knowledge that we don't have, like the sacking of Baghdad. We just burned the libraries and all that stuff, the knowledge that they had in there, and or the destruction of Alexandria, the library of Alexandria, just stuff that advances that we were making, that we had a major setback once we start destroying, but somebody comes in that's stronger, or somebody comes in that these people have subjugated and killed and stuff. Now they've grown more powerful, and then they attack them, the people who are in charge, And I remember a teacher, she was like, that's a optimistic way of looking at it. But she was like, well, let me look at it from another way. She said, what if humans progressing like that? What if we were just actually accelerating? Like I said, humans had empathy like that. We were working together, but we were accelerating our own demise. Like we accelerated global warming based on what we're doing. Now you could say, hey, we would have had progress into that where the things we're doing is causing the planet to heat up. And if it heats up too much, we won't be able to live on this motherfucker. So we start developing renewable energy and using and things like that, and then maybe we'll get better and move on past that to where we're not using harmful materials or energy sources that could be harmful to the planet or us. And then just say it could be that, or we could have kept using that, back in the day, and then actually killed ourselves faster. That's what kind of like she was saying. And I remember I was like, that's an interesting, very like pessimistic way of looking at it. Like we would have actually we've been working together, but we would have actually accelerated the destroying the planet. Instead of destroying it through wars, people fight it, we destroy it through our own us collecting together, collecting our knowledge and progressing and making technology and stuff like that, and not persecuting people because we think that, oh, this knowledge over here that this person is making is devil worship or something, and killing them or accusing them of being witches or warlocks or some shit. We can look at things and work together, gain more knowledge, increase more knowledge, and as I maybe make the world better. And then, like, how much further would we have already been past this point? Would we have already maybe figured out intergalactic travel? And maybe that's a thing that's not even possible, because you're talking about traveling through space. Unless you're talking about traveling on a ship, like having giant ships where they are like, I forget what they call it, like generational ships, where it's like the people who leave the planet are not going to be the people. If you have a destination and it's, I don't want to say a whole light year away, because, but let's just say, let's keep it simple. It's like that's a light year away. Then you're talking about everyone who left on the ship that left will be dead by the time, will be long gone by the time it gets to that destination. It'd probably be like several generations in or something like that by the time it gets to that destination. It depends on how fast the things is it going, the speed of light. Because you're talking about it takes 1 light year to get over there. Is this ship traveling at speed? If it's not, then that means it'll take longer. But yeah, that always made me think, like, what if we didn't kill each other? Where would we be now as just a human race? Would we have progressed to the point where, everything is almost like a Star Trek type, where there's no poverty, everyone's well educated because everything's free and everything's automated now, and everything is just life is made easy. Like, there's no struggle, really, anything like that as far as like humans. Now, when you go out in space, you might interact with something that may cause struggle. But as far as like our society as a whole, everything is copacetic. Or would we have accelerated our own demise by pushing, even though we have empathy, we're not warming one another, but we push the envelope as far as like technology or research or stuff like that, into where, like I said, we get to where we are with, where we were with like oil and coal and stuff like that, and we were moving, no pushback with that, until somebody came along and said, hey, we could use renewable energy. We don't need to use coal. And then you had people who weren't trying to, because at the same time you could think, well, we might have moved past that a lot faster if people had more empathy, because you didn't have these, like, the owners of these coal companies or oil companies, like, trying to stifle technology that will put them out of business, like the oil companies stifling or kind of shutting down the like the development of the electric car, you know, or like coal, you know, people say we need coal, like with the baby drill stuff, they shutting down all of information or progression into renewable energy because it's just about oil and coal, and we're regressing back into that now. Now it seems like China is going to be the one that's going to lead the way in renewable energy technology, and we're going to be still back here burning coal and using oil, you know. It's like we're not using gasoline. It's like we take several steps forward, and then and then at one point we end up taking 15 steps back. It's like, and then even when people say like, oh, you know, the earth is warming, then you get some people get in the office, and then these people are in the pockets of these corporations, these oil companies and stuff like that, where they start saying like, well, I don't believe global warming is a thing, you know, or it's not that bad, it won't affect us that bad, or it won't affect, it's not affecting us as bad as we think it is right now, but eventually it will be, which is another thing I never understood. It's like, it made more sense for you to be like, it's not a thing because it still gets cold than to be like, oh, well, these scientists over here saying that in the next 50, 60 years, you know, it's going to be irreversible and the earth is going to warm to a point where it's going to be almost too hot for us to live here. We have to be indoors almost all the time. And then you have scientists on the other side like, well, it's happening, but it's going to take actually like 200 years or 300 years for it to actually happen to where it won't be irreversible. So you like, okay, well, we know that it's happening. If we both agree that it's happening, why don't we stop it from happening now? Like, take the steps now to stop it from happening. Why do we keep kicking this can down the road to the next generation, and then the next generation, and then you keep kicking it down till you get to the point where now whatever generation lands in 200-300 years from now, and that they're like, well, shit, we got to do something right now, otherwise the earth will be too hot for us to live in, you know. We'll have to build giant domes or some shit, you know. So I'm like, why do we keep, if we can agree that this is happening, why don't we start, you know, doing things now so it doesn't happen? Like I said, it makes more sense for you just to be a climate change denier than to be like, yeah, it's happening, but it's not happening that fast. It's like, that makes no sense. But yeah, I thought about that, like just how further we would be if we just didn't kill each other, or there was no real anger or people trying to be better than other people. Like, in order for me to feel superior, I have to be superior to something, which I mean I have to be superior. Like, I don't care about animals. Of course I'm superior to them. They can't even talk. But you want to be superior to a human. So then you put yourself above someone else, because somebody else has to be a second-class citizen. Or somebody else has to be under you. You see that now. You see that with race. You see that with gender. I mean, you know, of course you see that with white and black. You see that with, like I said, men and women. Like, if I can be treated like shit at my job by my supervisor that I can't say anything crazy to because I can be fired, he's above me and treats me like shit because he can, and he know he can get away with it. And then I can go home to my wife and I'm the king of the castle in here now, and I can treat her like shit, or treat her like she's beneath me or a servant, especially if she's a stay-at-home wife. You know, they just treat her like the way I'm being treated. I mean, you see it all the time. Like they say, hurt people. Like they see people who are abused, like children who are abused. Usually, well, I don't say usually, but more than likely will grow up to be an abuser because they've been abused. Now, you say you would think that they experience that they wouldn't want someone else to experience that, especially them causing it to someone else. But it just like when I say black people being racist towards other minority groups or being like bigoted towards other minority demographics. You know, it's just like we deal with that already. Why are you doing that to somebody else? Like, why are you doing that to another group? And then I know, like, for instance, when you see black people do that, like, to gay people, and I'm like, even if you don't bring in like the religious aspect, where you're like, well, I don't like them because I'm a Christian, and it's a sin in the Bible for, people to sleep with the same sex, something like that. It's just like we get enough of that in our community, and now you want to attack somebody else because it makes you feel superior. Because like even when you bring religious into it, it makes you feel superior because you think my religion is better than you or your religion. That's why you have other religions saying that this religion, that these people are blasphemers or infidels or whatever, and that my religion is better than your religion because my religion is a real God. So it's okay for me to treat you like shit or do unspeakable things towards you because God is on my side. You know, God is okay with this. You know, it's like, I just think like, where could we have been if so many people didn't kill? I mean, so many people got killed in the name of religion throughout the years, like throughout the centuries, like so many people. Like, I know in this country, we usually teach about, you know, like countries and like more like, you know, in Europe. So we talk mostly like Christian countries. So you hear more about Christians killing other Christians. Like, oh, the Queen is a Catholic now. Now it's time to kill all the Protestants, because everybody needs to be one religion, even though like you're both still Christian. Is you just worship differently, but you still worship the same God, right? But it's like, no, I'm a Protestant, I'm a Catholic. So now that the Catholic Queen is here, so now she has to kill anybody in power that's a Protestant and make sure everyone worships the way she wants them to worship. And then the Protestant Queen comes in and she kills the Catholics that was in charge and or like had, you know, power or whatever. Or say, hey, you have to convert to why am I forgetting? I just said it. I'm losing my train of thought now. I just said it. Not Catholics, but I forget. I just said it and I forgot the but anyway, I mean, you had the Crusades and all the stuff like that. People have been killing the name of religion for years, for centuries and centuries and centuries. You know, people have been killing other people just because like they live over there and we live over here. You know, you see that with gangs. Like, you from another part of the city than where I'm from, even though we both living in shit. But I don't like you because now we over here doing illegal shit and it's conflicting. What you doing, even though you're doing the same illegal shit, but you are taking money from us because we trying to expand and you expanded, and now we finally clashed. Instead of working together, we like, no, because we greedy and we want all our own shit, and we want it all. We don't want it. We don't want you to succeed, because if you succeed, that means we are failing. It's like, if you're not growing, you're dying, and we can't grow if you are growing, because now our territories have now clashed together. You know, it's just. But anyway, Hope you enjoyed my reaction to one. If you did, make sure to hit that thumbs up button down below. Make sure to subscribe if you're new here. Hit that bell if you want to be notified when I upload new videos. Comment down below. Share this video. I'll see y'all next time. Peace.